Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about something slightly more lighthearted than usual because I figure we could all use it since we're living in the hellscape we're living in. It's been quite a while since I've talked about stupid articles that just make no sense and really just worsen the state of existence, because why did these things have to be written? Why did we have to suffer through them? Well, you had to suffer through them because I decided to talk about it, so sorry about that. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I'm very black and white about cheating in relationships. It's just something that I don't bend on, I'm not flexible on in any way, and this is obviously with the understanding that we're talking about monogamous relationships. If people want to have open relationships or want to have their own rules on their relationship, that's their own business, but clearly what I'm talking about here is monogamous relationships where people have committed to each other and have committed to not being with other people, which is pretty much the demographic Cosmo goes for most of the time. Obviously, Cosmo caters mostly to women and women in relationships with men that are monogamous as well. But anyway, before we do that, I did want to thank today's sponsor, which is NordVPN. A VPN is a virtual private network, and that means you create a secure connection online. Using NordVPN means that I can browse the internet safely, as Nord has all of your data safe behind a wall of next generation encryption. On top of this, NordVPN has a strict no-logs policy, meaning they don't track, collect, or share your private data. Right now, you can get a huge discount on a 2-year plan if you go to nordvpn.com/readytoglare, and when you use my code, readytoglare, you'll get an extra month for free. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. While NordVPN is securing your online safety, it's also useful to have for fun things like to access streaming sites that may not be available in your country, especially as we're spending more time indoors. I even often switch to Italy in order to help my mom see what's available on her Netflix. You can choose from 5,400 plus servers in 59 countries. Again, remember to go to nordvpn.com/readytoglare and use code readytoglare to get an extra free month on a 2-year plan. Thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. So this article is a shit show from the very get-go. Well, the whole premise, I guess, is already a shit show. So it says, you cheated on him, now what? Cheating is not something to be proud of, but we get it. Sometimes cheating happens. Here's how to deal if you stray. I understand that this is an old article. It's from 2012, which ironically I thought was going to be the end of the world, but here we are. They've since posted articles of people saying, I've cheated on every boyfriend, and they've seconded articles that basically say that cheating is a form of self-care. So for them to even say it's not something to be proud of, it's like, dude, you pretty much advocate for it. Not only in this article subliminally, but in other articles as well. So let's not pretend. Let's not pretend. And I love how they say cheating happens. It's not something that happens. It's a choice you make. It's a decision. You don't just like fall into a pit of cheating. That's not how it works. Don't tell him. Your mother may have told you that honesty is the best policy, but in this case, many experts advise keeping your mouth shut. If it really was just one indiscretion, don't tell him, says psychologist Marcella Bacour Weiner, PhD, author of Cheaters. Although it might make you feel better, it will only hurt him and ruin the trust between you. This point is one that's difficult for me to say because I don't think it's fair for you to cheat in the first place, but hiding it from someone in order to quote-unquote spare their feelings, I think most of the time when cheaters hide it, it's not to spare the other person's feelings, it's to spare themselves from any amount of consequence, but that's just my opinion. And I think that once you cheat, realistically, the relationship is dead. That's how I see it. I don't know how you can really, really love someone and cheat on them. I know there are plenty of different situations, there are plenty of excuses that people use, but realistically, I just don't see it as something that is debatable. I just don't see any valid reason why that would happen. Even if the guilt is killing you, let it be your burden to bear. And don't tell other people either, or you increase the possibility of his finding out. See, now this point to me just solidifies the fact that it's not entirely or even dominantly about how the other person would feel and react. It's more about like what's gonna happen to you. Cheating is selfish in and of itself. I feel like this is just like an extra kind of validation for people who cheat and don't want to feel bad about it. This whole article honestly will be the type of article like the yes man friend who basically never tells you you do anything wrong even though you're clearly doing something wrong. And at that point it's like, if you are so inclined to or prone to cheating, at that point you have a conversation about your relationship and decide whether you want to have an open relationship or want to go for some sort of polyamory, which every time I mention polyamory, people mention polyamory has its own rules, which yes, but I'm saying establish rules that fit what both of you want. To stay in a relationship that's supposed to be monogamous but continuing to break the rules that you've put in place seems ridiculous to me. Examine your motives. When a woman cheats even just once, there's usually a problem in her relationship. Women often stray if their sex lives are stagnant or if they're neglected, says Ruth Houston, author of Is He Cheating on You? The other man fulfills something that her current guy isn't giving her. Granted, I think this is the case in any relationship, whatever the gender of the person cheating doesn't really matter. I think that when people cheat, there clearly is something missing or wrong. There's something up. You know, people who are in happy, fulfilled relationships don't feel the need to cheat. The kind of implication at the end of this saying the other man fulfills something that her current guy isn't giving her places the blame automatically on the guy, which it might be, but it also might not. It's almost like you can have a conversation and avoid any of this shit show. You could just talk to them and communicate. And granted, the conversation is going to be awkward, hard, probably will hurt their feelings to some extent, maybe hurt your feelings, but it's better than all this runaround of finding someone cheating on your significant other with them, then trying to hide it, then deciding if you're going to tell them. Like, that's a lot of work for what? Like, if we're going to go via the selfish perspective, what are you doing all this work for? You could have had a conversation. It could have been 10 minutes, but you're turning it into this massive thing that probably will stick with you and that will probably give you anxiety realistically, because it should. If you decide your love is worth salvaging, you have to fix the problem or the issues will fester. Ask yourself why you did it, advises Weiner. Then let your boyfriend know what you need from him, but still do not confess. It's insane to me that this doctor is pretty much advising you after the fact to analyze what it is that's bothering you. How about you do that before? How about you do that as soon as you have an inclination or you're thinking of cheating on them? How about that's when you stop yourself and you're like, wait, what am I doing? Why am I considering doing this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, why does it have to happen after? Okay, be honest with yourself. Of course, the relationship could already be dead in the water. You may just be too lazy or scared to address the issues, Houston points out. Or you just want to see what else is out there before doing anything drastic. But do yourself and your boyfriend a favor, cut the cord. It's very obvious that as soon as you are seriously considering cheating on someone to the point where you're thinking about who to cheat with, when, where, how to cover it up, as soon as you get to that place, I'm not saying the relationship is dead, because I'm sure that, you know, out of frustration, maybe people could do that. But for me, the reality is, in that moment, you either decide to break up or you have the hard conversation, or maybe both. I just don't understand how people can do that and then after claim they're so concerned about their partner's feelings and that's why they're not going to tell them that they cheated, because it's like, if you were that concerned about your partner's feelings in the first place, you wouldn't have done this in the first place. Am I missing something? I've always been black and white about this. There are people in my family that I almost constantly debate on this because they're a lot more gray about it, which no, not me, not today. Even if you've covered your tracks, your man could discover your indiscretion. Assuming you still want to be with him, your best bet is to say how sorry you are, swear it'll never happen again, and beg for his forgiveness. Now is not the time to get into the reasons why you did it. Wait a couple of weeks before airing your grievances, says Weiner. He needs time to process the betrayal without being confronted with the mistakes he's made. I don't know how I feel about this whole point because it always boils down to the mistakes he's made. Now, granted, sometimes people cheat because their partner made some kind of mistake, but at the same time, there are some people who cheat because they might have some emotional issues. They might have some baggage that makes them do that, regardless of if their partner is perfect or not. I think we can all think of at least one person who was a great partner who got cheated on, not because they did something massively wrong, but because the other person had their own shit going on, which made them inclined to. So the automatic blaming of the male in all of these relationships, I don't think is necessarily appropriate because we don't know. Like, this is supposed to be broad, you know? So if the man made mistakes, confront the problems, talk about it. Again, to me, someone making a mistake in a relationship, it's not your hall pass to just be like, okay, they made a mistake, so I can do whatever I want and not feel bad and not be guilty of anything. Also, I think it's funny that they assume that the man would stay in the relationship after the woman admits to cheating. Like, to me, I would assume that a lot of people would probably break it off then and there. That would be me. I just don't think that's something you can repair. I think that kind of emotional scarring and damage is just something I personally would not recover from. Like, I would not be able to trust that person again. I don't know about other people, but to assume that he's just going to chill there for weeks and then you can air your grievances, if he knows what's best for him, he's going to peace out and leave because nobody deserves to be cheated on. Gender is immaterial here. Give him space. Being cheated on can do a number on a person's self-esteem, so you have to stroke the poor boy's ego. Regardless, he will be pissed and might need space. If so, leave him alone until, fingers crossed, he forgives you. The whole tone of this is really rubbing me the wrong way, because you have to stroke the poor boy's ego. Like, I'm sorry. You betray someone's trust. You probably give them new reasons to doubt themselves, dislike themselves, potentially hate themselves, depending on who you're dealing with. You're gonna make them so much more self-conscious. They're gonna have a harder time trusting people. You're doing all these things that are like actually horrible, backstabbing things with someone who's supposed to be your best friend, right? Because in a relationship, ideally, your significant other is your best friend. You do all of this to your best friend. And then this article's like, you need to stroke the poor boy's ego. Some people get traumatized over shit like this. Now, if you've been watching long enough, I have my own personal example of this. This is what happened with my parents. My father was the cheater. And the absolute ripple it had across our family was insane. So like, I know how much it can actually be not just like a silly breakup between a girlfriend and boyfriend who are in 7th grade and just held hands. Like, it can really be rather cataclysmic, especially if a family is involved. So I just don't understand how they're minimizing whatever pain the male might be in this situation. And aside from that, if this were a woman, would they say stroke the poor girl's ego? Like, is that not entirely patronizing and rude? Cosmo's trash, but we already knew. Anyways, guys, you can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Frankly, the more I think Cosmopolitan is trash, the more I continue to be surprised by how actually trash they are. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let's get right into the fan art.